Chop. All right, so welcome back. So for your final exam is the 13th last I checked. I will go ahead and double check before next week, and I will send out an official email saying when your final exam is. Remember, final exam, you should take 3 per, no, you should not take any more than 2 in a single day. If you have 3 scheduled the same day, please email me or one of the other professors so that you don't get, so you don't have to deal with so many finals in the same day. All right. So questions on the final exam are as follows. There will be 5 mandatory short questions. And I mean short, like, kind of, I think a couple of them there will be like multiple choice kind of those deals. The 5 very short questions, ones that basic, and I will probably have restrictions. They're the kind of more basic questions that I'll have, like, what is the output of this code, with the restriction that, you can't use your interpreter during that period. I have some old practice stuff. I'll see what I can do. Don't know if I'm making it a practice, but I have some older stuff. But anyway, point being is that there'll basically be 5 questions that are questions that you'll have access to OpenNote, OpenBook, but not access to IDLE or any other editor or IDE. In other words, 5 questions where you can't physically code on your computer for. That will be enforced by us basically just looking over your shoulder, essentially. Don't know. I'll check that out. So it's probably on the 13th. So anyway, 2 questions. And then of the remaining questions, it'll most likely be of the, here's some questions. Here's the questions with the topic at the top of them. Choose 2 of them. Choose 2 of them to solve. I have yet to figure out if we'll be doing a group component to it. Let's see, with regards to your exams, I graded the group exams. Your TA should have graded your individual exams. If you have any issues with that, I'll be happy to discuss that with you with your specific exam. Okay. All right. Next, you should have there's a progress report that you should it had a due date of yesterday. If you completely forgot about it, then just turn it in as soon as possible. Just give me a update on where you are in your final project. How did things go? How did things go? How many, what's going as you expected? What adjustments have you made to your final project? Like, are you able to do A, B, and C, or now do you have to get around those? I'd say it's probably about as difficult as the last one. Okay. So just update that, as best you can. Again, and I should put you at ease with the final project. What I care about is the journey, not the destination. If you cannot get your final project, like at the finishing point that you said you would be able to do, that's, as long as you put effort into it, it will, it will work. If you can't open the final project, the progress report, then you should try opening it in a text editor. Again, the final project, either that or you're using Safari and you're having an issue with downloading some stuff. That happens sometimes when I'm telling you to download something from another site. Again, as long as you've shown that you've made progress, which can be done with your commits on GitHub, or basically through, just the various iterations you would do, that will have, a good result. It's very rare for people to actually fail the project, even if it isn't fully completed. Generally speaking, if as long as you make an effort, you're going to pass that progress, get a 70 or above on your final project. Okay. It's not something, and most people, I've rarely given out C's for that. Most people get at least a B or an A. Okay. As we're coming up to the end of the semester, there are some questions about the lateness in my demoing policy. Okay. So your assignments, unless otherwise worked out with me in advance, your assignments need to be turned in by next Monday. Okay. They need to be turned in by next Monday. The same due date as your final project. Your final project is due December 5th. You know me, you know that I'm very lenient about due dates and stuff. The final project is not a due date I am lenient about unless you are dealing with a medical emergency or some other kind of disaster of that magnitude. Okay. If you're not done with it, turn it in with what you have, or use the late policy as described in the syllabus for that, which is very aggressive, but it will get turned, but it will allow you to turn it in. There is no, similarly, there is no dog ate my homework excuse for this class when it comes to the final project. The final project gets, that's why we use GitHub. Your computer doesn't crash. Your computer crashed before you could finish the final project. Okay, send me the GitHub link. You know, it's not one of those things. I'm just saying that because I've had in the past somebody do that. Now, with regards to demoing after the fact, I'm more than happy, you know, as long as you turned it in by the 5th, I'm more than happy to demo it. Isaac, I'd have to check with you later. It should be working just fine. Is anybody else having difficulty with the progress report file? No? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, so I can help you with that. Maybe it's issue. Okay. Yes. Let's go ahead and talk about the final project. And how to turn, so let me finish up with the lateness and demos. Okay. Lateness and demos, right? Demoing your lab assignments. I'd be happy to do that throughout like the final exam period. Okay. Even as long as things get turned in, I'd be happy to demo them to you, because of course you may have not had time to arrange the demo that was with me. Okay. I hope, you know, hope I'm clear about that. With regards to turning in your final project, right? What do? You turn in your source code. And then the other thing is you don't demo it to me. Instead, what you do is you make a video. And there are instructions on how to make a video I have some instructions on how to make a video on my YouTube channel. You can probably use the search function to find it. But in general, if you don't know how to do that, just open up Zoom, share your screen, and hit the record button. That's a fairly foolproof way to do it. It's nothing fancy, but I mean, let me go to my documentation. Okay. Assignments. Yeah, videos always. It's the video has to be turned in. A video has to be turned in for every final project. That's how so it is a 1 to 2 minute video. It is not a very extensive video. It details your project. You can upload it to Canvas. You can upload to YouTube and then link to it you just need to make it easy and obvious for us to find. Okay. Your video can be a walkthrough of your code. It can be slides. It can be screenshots, it can be a voiceover of a separate video recording of yourself. It can be a live action demonstration. I don't really, as long as it shows how your project is, what your project is and where you are in it, that's great. Okay. Try not to go over 2 minutes, please, because I want to be able to watch these all, you know? So your video is a general overview of your final product. You want to, anything you want to say, like difficulties or things you learned, what you enjoyed, the things that basically that we need to figure out for other things like that, that can go in your README file. Okay. What we're interested in is what challenges you. No, No. If you have API keys there, don't upload your API keys. Okay, just don't. You can basically, you can assume that give me enough direction on how to recreate it with my own key, essentially, if I needed to, or all you need to do is to do a video demonstration of that. Okay. We are interested in the challenges you've encountered when coding and if you found a way to overcome them or go around them. We understand that it may not be possible to complete your original vision. We are interested in how you responded in the face of adversity. We are interested in the journey, not the destination. Okay. If you're in a group, you do not have to present the video. You don't have to split it up. Just submit one video for all three people. Again, all three people should link to the same thing. Okay. But there only needs to be one. You don't have to triple, you don't have to do triple copies of the work. Make sense? Yeah, this is fairly straightforward. Right. So again, if you want more details, check out the final project. The due date is December 5th. Again, it's a hard deadline unless there is it is a hard deadline unless you're encountering something that would normally prevent you from taking an exam, again, like in a medical emergency or something like that. Then you need to abide by that deadline. Yes. In the README, you want to talk about any difficulties you ran into during the creation of the project. Anything that you want to talk about, anything at all can go into the README. Okay. All right. So any other questions about the final project? Again, it's not something you should panic about. I mean, stress is going to happen regardless because, that's just the normal part being, but panic, no, I don't want panic. Okay. Stress is motivation, possibly, depends. I mean, it's for me. All right.
I think that's the beauty of being a procrastinator, because the more stress, the more will get done in last minute.
All right. Now, again, I'm sorry if I didn't get to you, via your emails or something, or if I had to terminate appointments over the break, so I'm not sure if you knew this, but the average kindergartner gets sick 1 million times a school year, which is impressive since there's only 365 days a year. So I mean, the real overachievers there. So anyway, I am, so when my kid is sick, that generally means my wife gets sick, which generally means that it's only a matter of time before I got sick. So all of last week, my wife and kid were sick, and then I finally got sick this weekend. So that is why I did not get to you. So, now, but today, so Thursday, what we're going to do is I'm going to try my best to go over practice problems for the final exam. I have some that I can probably scrounge up somewhere. Okay. But with regards to that, as I mentioned earlier, the final exam is going to be grouped into two parts. 5 questions that are very short, the kind of that you would get on the first exam that basically say, hey, what is the output of this code kind of questions. Okay. These are ones where I don't want you to, where basically I say, hey, in the instructions, do not use an interpreter, do not use an editor, do not use your coding features on your computer, right? You are not allowed to run this code. This will be enforced by us walking back and forth in the classroom and just, looking over your shoulders to make sure. Okay. This is just because I want to be able to ask these kinds of questions. Okay. Without overcomplicating things by making 2 exams. Make sense? Just one thing to click on. Okay. Then I will have 2 of these more Rosen-y, let's call them, questions that are bigger questions. Or not 2 of them, but I'll have 3, I'll have 4 or 5 of them, and you can choose 2 of them. Okay. So of these questions, we already know what some of them are going to be. From previous lectures that one of those is going to be one of those that you can choose is a Monte Carlo. And I can tell you that will be asking you to simulate a board game. Okay, so simulate a board game. The board game rules are not going to be are actually quite simple. They are quite literally toddler level. So but it is a very good Monte Carlo problem. Okay. The second one of the other ones that I will have is like a document of a very of a turtle program, a very obfuscated bit of turtle code that I want you to be able to read and kind of analyze for me. Now, one of those that I have asked in previous semester. Now, this other one is one that I've asked in previous semesters, and I'm going to take the time to go over it now. And this is part of the reason why we were doing like this whole choose as many as you want, choose which ones you want, because I really want to teach this, but there's only like a week left, so I don't have too much time. So I want to include it on the final because otherwise you're going to be like, what's the point? And I think it's very valuable to know. I mean, certainly it's a very valuable piece of knowledge. So this one, we're going to go and go all the way back to election season. I know. We've been done with election season. We in the US, we just had elections. And then if you've got any family in Georgia, then you know that it's not over because there's a runoff there. Right. But, this ever since, like, I don't know, somewhere between 2012 and 2016, elections never stopped, But no, in this case, what I'm talking about is the 2016 run-up for the election. Now, in this, I want to emphasize when I talk about politics or political implication stuff in class, I find it. I want to be clear. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by saying I don't have a political opinion. Obviously, I do, but I'm not going to. But it's not relevant to this class what it is. So when I pick on this particular candidate, or show the candidate or show a politician as a specific example, it is because it is the most recent iteration of this. Once another politician makes the same mistake, and I have similar news stories on it, and that kind of buzz generates around it, I'll be more than happy to, I will be updating that because I try to use the most recent. I'm not picking on this particular person because of any political kind of bias on my part. I just want to be clear about that. Okay. So anyway, so let's go ahead. So what we're going to talk about is, and I know it's like politics, what are we going to talk about? Oh, well, we're going to talk about, of course, the most natural thing to talk about, Florida Man. The world's worst superhero. So who knows what Florida Man is? Anyone want to share?
I don't know, but you probably should look up Florida Man and your birthday and see what happened.
Yep. Florida Man is a meme. Okay. Popularized in 2013, but it is the meme that basically Florida Man is it's a meme about this preponderance of stories that occur in the state of Florida. With that, and the stories all begin, Florida Man does X crazy thing or X crazy crime or whatever, right? Typically about strange things. Now, there's actually an interesting reason for this phenomena. Okay, a very interesting reason for this phenomena. The Miami New Times, they claim that the Freedom of Information laws in Florida make it easier for journalists to obtain information about arrests from people than in other states. And that's actually very true. You see, Florida has a number of sunshine laws, as they call it, making it very easy to make it very easy to kind of get these stories very quickly. It's very easily for journalists to freedom of information laws in Florida. It is the policy of any state that all state county and municipal records shall, which from the little legalese I know is a very powerful word, shall at all times be open for personal inspection by any person. That means like arrest records and stuff. Very easy to look up. Those kind of things. And there's obviously some exemptions to this. Okay. Obviously, there's some private information and stuff that, shouldn't be easily accessible. But the point being is that is that the Florida Public Records, 1995, it makes it very easy to get these kind of stories. The government in Florida has this kind of policy of electronic record of these records being open to the public, especially electronic records. Okay. So we get a number of stories about this, which is relevant because of a particular candidate during the 2016 Republican presidential primary, the person who was initially considered to be the front runner of the Republican presidential primary. I am, of course, talking about Jeb Bush, who was considered to be the, in the hypotheticals, to be the most likely candidate for the Republican Party in 2016. He served as the governor of Florida from 1999 to 2007. I can right there. So he announced his presidential candidacy in 2015, suspended his campaign about a year later. Okay, so he ran, and notice that's a good number of months. That's a lot of months to be running for office. So of course, again, election season, any candidate is going to have, this looks good story for this candidate. Oh, terrible story for this candidate. Oh, good story, bad story. It's a cycle, and sometimes the cycle spirals out and candidates just don't recover. Okay. That's its own other thing. But for Jeb Bush, he had a number of interesting things that kind of passed under the radar because of, the sheer chaos of the 2016 presidential election season. Okay. So one of the things that happened is that Jeb Bush, again, was in part of this culture of making things accessible for people. He, in fact, I believe, adopted the nickname of the e-governor because notice when he was governor, 1999 to 2007, that's kind of the proliferation and common of the internet becoming very common to people. We're talking email now becoming very regular for people not in business, but at home to use. People at home getting access to the internet, possibly for the first time, So we're talking about the first government, whitehouse.gov website getting thrown up on there, So we're talking that basically so Jeb Bush was a fairly early adopter of email. Okay. Now, as part of trying to be, and as part of this, he released his emails in 2015, as part of basically this effort to be transparent. So if we look for Jeb Bush email, yep. And I like this one from The Verge because it's got actual excerpts. February 10th, 2015. So pretty much the beginning of his campaign. Right before his campaign, a rumored candidate, right? In the sake of transparency, I'm posting the emails of my governorship here, a note on Bush's website. Some are funny, some are serious, some I wrote in frustration. Some contain the email addresses, home addresses, phone numbers, and social security numbers of Florida residents. The emails are available in Outlook format and can be searched on the web at his website. It's obviously been scrubbed at this point, right? You can search, so it's been scrubbed at this point, but the point being is that you might be going, wait, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait. Who in the world is stupid enough to send social security numbers via email? And the answer is when you're dealing with a government official, it's actually not that stupid. For instance, there's a phenomena that can occasionally happen, which is basically you're dead. But you're not actually dead. You see, legally, you're dead. And you might think that's great because you don't have to pay taxes if you're legally dead, but it also means you cannot apply for any benefits. You can't apply for any social security cards. Can't apply for any, social security benefits. You can't apply for jobs. Being dead actually is not very good. And it occasionally happens that a person is accidentally declared dead. And the Social Security Administration is going to look at you going, what are you talking about? This person's dead. You're here. The records can't be wrong. You're trying to impersonate this person. Get out of here before we call the cops. It can be a real nightmare. The easiest way to handle this thing, contact your governor, contact your representative or your senator or your state representative or senator, and make noise until one of them can cut through the red tape for you. And in that kind of case, you're going to be asking, you're probably going to need your social security number. Or in general, if you're asking for a governor to basically cut through some bureaucratic red tape for you. And I'm not talking about in a nefarious kind of, kickback or avoiding regulations kind of thing. I'm talking about real legit things, right? Like this. I'm in touch with Stephen Ufalder in Tallahassee. Here's a number representing Tenef Care. Lewis, this family and blank needs a prayer support. Please tell us what I can do to get this child into surgery with the most experienced and talented surgeons who can give the child life. Here's the patient information over here. All this done. The mother of patient, this. Here basically is somebody asking, so basically, so here is Jeb Bush. I think this is from Jeb Bush saying that he's contacted various people to try to cut through red tape, to try to find people who can help this kid. If I'm reading this correctly. Okay. So, that's what I mean by cutting through red tape. So, but that being said, this is a lot of, you can see here, this was not redacted information, right? This was information included in the emails. And, again, this kind of stuff is not exempt by the Florida Sunshine Law. It's exempt from the Florida Sunshine Law. You don't have, this is not the stuff that you release. This is personal information. The Social Security number, for those of you who are not U.S. citizens, right? If you from your country of origin, you probably have a ID card that probably has some kind of national ID card, is a national ID number. This is a very common practice. It is not common practice in the United States. States might have driver license numbers or something like that, but there is no national ID. It is part of just the culture of the United States with having 50 states. It's an entirely different conversation. Just know that's part of the culture. However, the Social Security number, which was used for Social Security, has basically become a de facto ID number for the most part. In terms of using an identifiable number. It used to say on your Social Security number, don't use this Social Security number as for any identification purposes. They gave up on that and just stopped using it because everybody was using it as an ID number, even though it doesn't have any of the kind of protections or double check kind of things that ID numbers should have. Like if you did the credit card assignment, you'll know that credit card numbers have specific formats that you can verify that this is a correct number. So anyway, that's why the Social Security number is a big deal. Okay. It's effectively an ID number and all you really need for to one of the few things you need to impersonate a person. So the question is, how could this have been avoided? Well, one answer is that you hire some people and you have them go like this in front of a computer and they scroll and they scroll and they scroll as they find every Social Security number and then they delete it. This, however, is a job for automation. we could delete we could write a program that could, find and replace something in a string. But let's think about how to do that for a second. Okay. Let's think about how to do that for a second. Let me pull up Visual Studio Code. Okay. So I don't know. Look, that's outside of my entire purview. Okay. Okay. So for those of you who need a refresher or just don't know, how does a social security number look? A social security number is of the format of 3 digits followed by a dash, followed by 2 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits, right? So a social security number might look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3 dash 1, 2 dash 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. If that is your social security number, I am so sorry. Like I said, these things aren't really secure. So anyway, but that is an example social security number. But it could easily be something like 999-11-9911, right? Could be something like that. So how in the world would I write some code that identified this? Like, given some strings, find a social security number, right? Basically you'd have to have something like, okay, let's have a for loop for I in range length of S, where S is our string that might have a social security number in it, right? Okay. We might have a social security number. Yeah, S is equal to some string, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We might say something along the lines of, if S, let's go ahead and say digits is equal to okay, there's our digits. If S of I in digits and S of I plus 1 is in digits and S of 2 in digits and so on and so forth. Oh, and I'm sorry, and S of plus 3, I plus 3 is equals dash, and you get the idea from now on, right? This is a long string, but you can do it. It's a very long check. It can be done. Well, unfortunately, some people are lazy and they just entered their social security number like this, without the dashes. And suddenly your if statements become a lot more annoying. So while this is a problem that can be solved within if statements, it can be, it's not that fun. Now, I've always asked a question like this on the final exam, which is as follows. Given a file that contains something like, one year it was social security numbers, another year it was TU emails, another year it was telephone numbers. I do something different, right? Okay. Given a file that has this, create a file that I want you to read that file, create a file that is exactly the same. A second file that's exactly the same, except all that information removed. That seems like a bit of a difficult task. Unless, of course, you know regular expressions, which are an extremely powerful tool in computer science. Now, here's the thing about regular expressions. They don't really have a good place to teach them in a normal computer science curriculum. We just don't. The place where I learned about regular expressions was in automata theory, where we literally have to learn about regular expressions and regular languages so that we can understand how discrete finite automata work, which are like very easy, very limited building blocks for computers that you have to understand before you go on to the next kind of level of machine, which are stack machines, before you can get on to Turing machines, right? These are kind of mathematical models for different machines, automated machines. Okay, but I mean, like, why do you have to wait till a 3,000 level, 4,000 level class to learn something that's so useful? Regular expressions are the kind of things, if you spend 2 hours learning them, they'll be useful for basically the rest of your life if you're a computer scientist. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new file to not to do anything here, but to test. My name is let's see. My name is, let's see, is Andrew Rosen. My social security number is 123-45- is 123456789. I was going to use a name, but I don't want to accidentally make fun of anybody. Please do not steal. It is not 555-55-55-5555 or 987-65-4321. So what I want to do is I want to take this file, ssn.txt. I'm going to call it ssn.txt. And I want to create a second file that basically has, that's basically the same thing, but with all this information removed. So it's actually fairly straightforward in Python to do. The first thing we'll want to do is to use the regular expression library. Import RE, that is the regular expression library. Okay, and you'll have to, excuse me, I have to like basically do this from memory every year. It's annoying. So I typically pull up the regular expression, the RE. So I'm going to pull up the library on my side just to make sure. RE, but I know how it works. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is that we are going to create, I'm going to read the file. And part of this is part of this is more of an inspirational thing, in the sense that I'm trying to inspire you to take the time to learn about regular expressions, if you can. And with the benefit of, if you do so, you have a very easy task ahead of you on the final exam. Okay. So first thing we need to do is read our file. Well, yeah, again, it's going to be one of the final. This has always been on the final exam, and this is going to be on the final exam as one of the options you can choose for a question. We want to open ssn.txt read mode. Or we're going to get the data. I'm going to split up a bit. Data text is equal to data.read, so that I can form this thing as a string. Okay. Data.read. So this thing is now a string. That is, so the entire file is now stored as a string. Okay, next, what am I going to do? Next thing I am going to do is I am going to go through and replace everything, every social security number in this text, in this string. This string will have the social security numbers in it. I want to replace every string in it with, I want to replace everything in it with you know, something else. Let's say redacted or removed. Okay, come on. ssn.txt, right? Okay, I think there we go. There we go. So see, there's the file. It's stored as text. Okay. So now what we're going to do is that we are going. So yeah, it's going to probably take us a couple lines to do the find and replace. I lied. It's just going to take me one line. re dot. I'm going to make it as short as possible, and then I'm going to explain it. re dot subs. Let's see. It's pattern, replacement, and then string. Right. Okay. So I want to replace text, and I want it replaced with redacted. Now, by the way, every language supports regular expressions. Every language uses the same regular expression language. It just, the function calls are different. So if you learn this, you can use this in Java, you can use it in C, you can use it in JavaScript, you can use it everywhere. So this is useful in every language. So yeah. Let's go ahead and do this. Output text. And now I just need to find the pattern that needs to be matched. That's what regular expressions are. So what a regular expression is that it is a sequence of letters. It is basically the world's most powerful kind of find function. In fact, if you press Control F on your editor and VS Code, you'll notice over here, match cases, match whole word, and then over here, use regular expressions. It's part of your text editors too, especially if you're using VS Code or one of the more high-powered ones. Right? So we just need to find, so basically it's giving me, instead of looking for a word or a specific thing, I'm going to give it a pattern of something to match. Specifically, I'm going to give it this pattern. D 3 dash D2 dash D4. And now if I push print out output text, we can see that that went through and replaced all the social security numbers with redacted, with this magical nonsense over here, which I will explain. Don't worry. Object-oriented programming is covered in 1068. That is the entire focus of the next class. Okay. So now we need to write this file, which is done by saying fairly straightforward in this way. Output file is equal to open. We open it just like we would open a file to read. We give it whatever name we want to call. I'll call it. I'm going to call it SSN redacted.txt. I can call it whatever I want. But the big difference is, of course, is that I'm going to put a W here for writing. And then all I need to do is two more commands. Output file dot write, to write to a file. And what string, and then you give it a string to write, which I want to write the text. I want to put this text in this file. And then to finish writing, to say I'm done with the file, we use close. Note the amount of lines. It's 10 lines, including spaces. Okay. Oh, look, that file appeared right here. There were only 2 files. Open. That's it. In other words, if you learned this technique, pretty much all you need to know for the exam on the exam is how to put the right magic phrase in here. So what is this magic over here? Well, it's a shortened form of this. You see, the power of regular expressions is that you can define multiple options. regular expressions are essentially a flowchart, are essentially the linguistic form of a flowchart. If a flow chart can do it, then a regular expression can do it. Specifically with a flow. And the big thing about flowcharts is that they don't have any memory. They just kind of work off the next thing. So that was the shortened form of this. What is this? Well, /d is the regular expression, command or character class to for anything that is a digit 0 through 9. So this says 0. So what it's saying here is match anything that is 0 to 9, followed by anything that's a 0 to 9, followed by anything that's a 0 to 9. So in other words, right, the first three letters, followed by a dash, followed by two numbers, followed by a dash, followed by 4 numbers. Make sense? Now, what in the world is this entire function over here? Well, it's RE, which is the support for regular expressions. And then I'm using something called the sub function, sub for substitute, which says, I want to find all instances of this pattern. Okay. And I want to replace all instances of this pattern with this. Okay. And where do I want to replace all those instances of that pattern? I want to replace all the instances of that pattern here, right? I want to find all the patterns in this string and replace it with this. That's what I did. That's what the substitution function does. So over here, I said any pattern that matches the /d/d/d dash /d/d dash /d/d/d/d gets replaced with redacted. And what's /d? That is short for a digit. Yes, Mira.
I was just wondering, so does the slash also represent that like it's another digit, or can it be like GGG?
It's
dash?
so the /d is an escape character. So
Okay.
remember how we learned about, like, all the way back, we learned about escape characters like /n to do a new line.
Yeah.
Regular
Yeah.
expressions have special slashes for their character classes.
Oh, got you. Okay, thank you.
So /d here to represent that it is a digit. There are other kind of things you can do. So for instance, say I had a dictionary file and I wanted to find all 5-letter words, I could use /w/w/w/w/w, where W is a letter. So there's different kind of character classes. Now, before I completely forget about these things, where can you go to learn more about these wonderful regular expressions? Okay. So in general, where can we go to? So in general, where you can go to learn about these is, first off, is the other book that I have stored in our syllabus, Automate the Boring Stuff. You can, if you go here and you check chapter 7, which, by the way, notice is right before reading and writing files. It's just after like dictionaries. Chapter 7 has tons and tons and tons of examples of how to do regular expressions. This book is free. It's online. And here it's showing you how he's doing it on how he's doing is a phone number on this and seeing how difficult it, and showing, oh, it's such a pain to do this with using we're using regular string stuff. Whereas if we used a regular expression saying, because an American phone number here in this case is 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits. Right? So this talks about how to do this. He does it in the more correct way, which allows you to reuse the regular expressions, like by compiling your expressions and stuff, but it's fine. So that's good. The other website I use a lot, which I'll be using here, is Regex. Now let me go, by the way, let me go ahead and drop the files that I just wrote into the chat. Okay. So regexer is fantastic. First off, it allows you to test these various things. All right. And then it has a cheat sheet of all the special commands. Okay. So first off, regular expressions at its most basic level aren't any more scary than anything else. So for instance, if I look for the word was, W-A-S, this means find a W followed by an A followed by an S. Ignore these over here. They're relevant in other contexts like awk, but you're not using awk. You're using Python. So this isn't relevant. So WAS, this search for W, then A, then S, and it finds it over here. There was a mistake. Okay, right. It finds the was right there. No problem. Right. So similarly, searching for numbers and the like isn't that hard. But what is difficult is maybe something if you want to find this string. Supported, right? Supported finds that, and then you want the period after that. Okay. Because if you do this, notice that supported period also matches supported question mark. So this is the one now I'm introducing this because this is the first pitfall, and really the only pitfall you have to know about regular expressions. This dot character is the wild card. It matches everything. So for instance, if I do C, so remember our wildcat from before, from like exam 2, I believe, C dot T would match both cat and cut. It matches what, and also CTT and CNTA, that part of it, and then CZT and CPT, all sorts of anything we want. Right? It matches, the period matches anything. Okay. Another common thing that you can use regular expressions for is to look for capitalization. So say I wanted to find the word roll over here, but we don't know whether or not it's capitalized in a document or not. We want to find any document, see if a document contains the word roll, but we don't know if it's going to be capitalized or not. What you can do is you can create something called a character class by surrounding it with brackets. So, or character set. Basically, it's this means so brackets mean one of the following in the brackets. So this will find roll and roll, just like that. And that makes sense to everybody. If you get nothing else from this lecture, by the way, this is the part to pay attention to, because if you forget all this nonsense over here, you forget all this, you can recreate all these by using the brackets. Right? So for instance, if I wanted to find any and all vowels, I could do A-E-I-O-U. Yes. I see your question.
Sorry, yeah, I just have one more question. So this expression that you're showing us is what would go inside, like where the
it would go inside the
D,
parentheses. So it would go
Okay.
inside the quotation marks as the first argument for sub.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So now to show you this, and let's go ahead and, in fact, reshare, right, to the regex example over here, right? If, say, you forget that /D is a number, yep, you can, regexer, I think, is linked somewhere, so you're more than welcome to use regexer on the final. So, Okay, same rules for notes though in general apply. Okay. So for instance, I could create a character class to say that I want to find a number that is 0 or 1 or 2, 3, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, followed by a same thing, followed by a same thing, followed by a dash, followed by 2 more, followed by, and you could totally do that. It's a bit of a nonsensically long string, but whatever. You'll notice that it still works just fine. Now, if I put instead over, so if instead I over here, I put in Andrew Rosen, Andrew space Rosen, notice that what gets redacted over here is my name, right? So regular expressions, again, they're just really powerful. They're just find and replace with extra functionality. Now, going back to this number, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Well, the other things I can do is I can use these curly braces over here. Okay. Now, curly braces in regular expressions denote repetition. So for instance, if I were to say 3, anywhere where a regular expression sees 3 of these in a row, it will replace it with redacted. So here, you notice it replaced 3 of them. It didn't replace these 2, and then saw 3 in a row over here. And then it didn't replace this one. Why doesn't it replace the 9, the 5, or the 1? Because regular expressions are greedy. It will match, and it doesn't it doesn't overlap things, is the point. So here I could, for my regular expression, I could do this dash, then followed by exactly 2, followed by exactly 4. And you'll see that that does the same thing as me copying and pasting a whole lot. Please do not steal. Ugh. Okay. So as you can see, this is some very useful applications. But what's more, let me go ahead and I want to get to the Python documentation. Python docs, string, right? If we look at the string, common string operations, right? Let's see. Text sequence type string. I'm not sure. In Python, sorry, I'm not sure if it's got it in Python, but I know in Java, a lot of the built-in methods for string, they accept regular expressions. Okay. Regular expression. Yep. So it mentions it over here, but workaround for apostrophes can be constructed using regular expression. So over here, but okay, yeah. In Python, I don't think so, but in Java, I know it does. I know there's some functions that do use regular expressions. So the point being is that some regular expressions would be used, at least some of the pain from the email release would have been, solvable. A lot of things can be automated. All right. Let's go ahead and look at let's go ahead and teach you a bit more solving a similar problem that I gave on a final exam a couple years ago. Okay, and this will be my last example. There are plenty of other examples and lectures on how I did this in if you check the if you check the previous semester's lectures. I kind of lost the lecture because I did not realize how much time it would take to pass back the first exam. Never doing that again. So but oh, and then we lost the lecture because I had to cancel one at some point, right? So the main thing here to keep in mind is that if you're panicking about this and it's too much stress to learn this, then forget about it. This is going to be one of many options that you'll be able to choose to solve on the final exam. This is not required knowledge for the final exam. If, however, this does look interesting and exciting to you, then this is one that will be valuable and fairly straightforward to solve on the final exam. Make sense? Right? Right? I'm all about options here because I did not want this semester to end without introducing this. All right. So let's go ahead. And what we're going to do here is that I'm going to create a new file about, and I'm going to call it tumail.txt. My tu email address is tug85861 at temple.edu. It is not same thing, TUF or TU. I can also be reached at andrew.rosen at temple.edu. Okay. So the finding an email regex is actually it's a pain in the neck to write. Okay. Some would actually use some much stronger terminology than I did. It's a pain in the neck though. However, for kind of limited targeted things, it's acceptable because, and the reason being is that email's way more, how to say, flexible than you may have ever imagined. For instance, did you know that for your Gmail account, for instance, I have a Gmail account that you can, like this. My Gmail account is this. profandrewrosen@gmail.com. But I can also split it up like that. It doesn't matter. It's this all mail that's sent to the first one and to split up like that goes to the same place. Okay. But also, if I do this, that's also valid. And by the way, that also goes to profandrewrosen@gmail.com. It's just also classified differently. So I can sign up to a website. Basically, if I need to sign up to a website and I want to see who's tracking it, I can do that. So email, and you probably didn't even know the plus sign could be used for that. Oh my God. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay. But email is complicated is the point. On the other hand, this question is not. Okay. Which is that I want to remove all the TU email addresses from the document. So I want to remove this thing, and this thing over here. But I don't want to remove, but this thing is not technically a TU email address because it doesn't start with TU, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and copy, paste. Believe it or not, I can just use basically the same thing. tumail.text. TU example. Right? I'm going to save my time by just copying pasting it. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to get the text by reading. I got to create my regular expression over here. Hold on one second. Sorry. Okay. All right. So let's see. So output text re.sub. So we need to figure out what a TU email address is. Okay. So a TU email address, and let's just turn this into email redacted. A TU email address is of the following form. Okay. It's got, well, first off, it ends with @temple.edu. So let's try to get that out of the way first. Okay. So let's go ahead and just put regex over here is equal to a string. And then we'll put in regex over here. Right. So we'll solve it up here. Right. So let's do this. So first off, we've got a question about the @ sign. Can I just remove the @ sign? It's not a special character, is it? It is not. So we can say, so we know how to get rid of the @temple part. And then we've got a period here. Now remember, period in regex means basically it's the wildcard character. If I want to do a regular period, then the special rule is I escape it like this. So this is how I would do regex.edu. Now, so now the back part is redacted like that. You can see this is a good way to build your regular expressions, by the way, just kind of going through it sequentially like this, rather than trying to tackle the whole thing. Now we know that also that we've got a sequence of numbers over here. Okay. So these numbers can be any number, right? So that is the wild card for doing a digit, right? So we do 5 of those. Actually, I'm bad at counting. I think I did 5 of those, but let's be sure. Let's make it exact. Okay. And then finally, we need to remove the first 3 letters, which are going to be a T followed by a U. And then I don't know what letters they use. I think they use all of them at this point anyway. So A through Z. So here's one of those cool things we can do if you didn't see it in the chat. Rather than doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, which is a perfectly valid, I can just go A to Z like this. And it understands what I mean. A to Z. If you don't handle capitalization, by the way, I'm just not going to, I don't care. So /W would also work. /W would also work. /W is also a bit over aggressive because it's alphanumeric characters. /W includes underscores and digits as well. But I would probably take it. I'd take it. It's one of those things that you know, you're including a couple invalid emails being redacted, but oh well. Okay. All right. I think I'm getting to the point, to the tolerance level of my throat for today, unfortunately. But these are the kind of this is one of the many possible, one of the many questions that we'll have on the final exam. So I'll end the lecture by recapping what is going to be on the final exam. On the final exam, we're going to basically split it into 2 parts. You've got the mandatory part where you're allowed to, it's open note, open book, but on your computer, you're not allowed to use the thing you're normally allowed to use, which is your editor. This is so I can ask you questions that you would be able to trivially answer by running the code. And I don't want you to run the code. Okay. I want to be able to ask these questions. Yes, it's a bit different trying it this time, but I want to be able to ask these questions so that you can answer them. That is correct, Michael. Yes. All right. The slash before the dot was because the dot is a wild card character and I only wanted to match periods. So /W means explicitly, sorry, /dot means explicitly a period as opposed to a wild card character. Okay. Again, please feel free to refer to my lectures from previous semesters that are linked on Canvas. Okay. In fact, this may be of use to all of you who want to prepare for the final exam. And I haven't talked about the second part yet, but again, for all of you who want to prepare for the final exam, and because I will do some preparation on Thursday for the final exam, lecture recording over here. Go over here, right? You can check the previous lecture, click over here, and you'll see over here that I had a lot of final exam review that previous semester. And same over here, we did some final exam review as well as regular expressions over here. And then regular expressions over here as well. Yes, David. I'm sorry. All the talking. It sounds worse than it actually is. Yes, Mira.
I saw on your YouTube channel that you have like over there the final review one, and then you just go through like multiple choice questions. Are those the questions we should be like? I didn't complete. I feel like I watched like the first 5 minutes of one of them, but
No.
are those the types of questions?
So there's going to be like, again, 5 questions of the type that you'd expect from like exam 1, just kind of short questions.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then the second part of the exam will be questions that you had experienced that have been in exam that are similar to those that were on exam 2 and exam 3, which are the bigger problems that have a rubric attached to them. The bigger problems that tackle multiple points that have a rubric attached to them. Those I will be giving you, you'll have like, I think either 4 or 5 questions, and you'll be given, and you're going to be choosing whatever number. It's either going to be 2 or 3. It's going to be whatever I deem appropriate based on the number of questions I give you and the number of, and the amount of time. Okay. Yes, yes. Editors are used on the second part. That part you can code as normal. That is part of the reason why the first part will also go quicker, is because you can't use an editor. Just when you can't use an editor, it goes quicker because you aren't. So we already know turtle question, regex question. Turtle question, regex question. Yes. Yes. The second part of the exam is just like exactly the same as restrictions as you had for exam 2 and exam 3. Only the first 5 questions are a bit different because I'm just trying to ask these questions that are very useful. Okay. All right. All right. So that is it. I should have time to meet with a couple students about various demos or questions. All right. I'd say again, it's either 2 or 3 questions. It depends on how many questions I give you. All right.
Gotcha. Thank you, Professor. Hope you feel better.
I hope so too.
Thank you, Professor. Feel better. And just let me know when you can demo.
I can do demos now.
Oh, okay.
Just not a huge, just not like an entire, what you call them, pile of them from person. All right.
I could do one with you on Thursday if you're fine, because